Hi there. Prepare to be captivated by an unparalleled journey into the heart of creating VMs in your Proxmox Homelab server. First, our Proxmox expert will compare Proxmox with VirtualBox. Then he will compare Proxmox with the Commercial VM Servers 1, VMware vSphere 2, Microsoft Hyper-V 3, XenServer. Nico will then give you his recommendation for hardware that you can use for your Proxmox Homelab. After that, he will show you his VirtualBox server running on his Mint Linux server. Finally, expect to be fascinated when Nico demonstrates his Proxmox Homelab. You will now be empowered to choose your own server technology for your Homelab. We are confident that you will now have 21 reasons to choose Proxmox. We will provide you with a link to our on-installing Proxmox as your Homelab. So, buckle up and expect to be amazed by this brilliant video. Now, without further ado, allow me to introduce you to our Proxmox expert, Nico. Please note that Nico has a Dodecanese accent, but he speaks the Queen's English fluently. Over to you, Nico.
I would like to go through all the options that are available, and I would like to compare them with Proxmox so that you can make an informed decision. Now let's start with VirtualBox. I have provided a link to our blog page down below so you can get this information here. I will go briefly through this. These are the advantages or the reasons. I've called this the reasons to use VirtualBox. First of all, it's easy to use. Its cross-platform capability means that you can install this on your Windows, Linux, or Mac machine, and that you are not limited as to what virtual machines you can run. However, practically I have found two limitations with this. I have a Dell PC with 16 gig RAM, and I found that on that machine I need 4 gig for the operating system. It's running Linux, and that means I can only run 2 VMs if I allocate 4 gig of RAM to each. And 4 gig of RAM is what you want to use if you're going to do a Kubernetes cluster. Now let's have a look at the reasons for using Proxmox instead. What's also nice with Proxmox is that you can cluster 2 or more Proxmox machines. So if you get 2 PCs, you can now be able to do a full Kubernetes high availability cluster. Performance is one of the benefits of using Proxmox. Proxmox comes with a Type 1 hypervisor, whereas most of the other solutions for virtualization use a Type 2. I'm talking about the Microsoft where you can run VMs inside your Windows, or even VirtualBox. They are running Type 2. That means that you are running your operating system as the base layer, and then on top of that, you are then running VMs. You are running VirtualBox, and then inside the VirtualBox, you are running VMs. With Proxmox, you are running all your VMs on the bare metal. So Proxmox gives you the type of performance that you would get with the enterprise or a commercial virtualization system. Proxmox gives you scalability by means of multiple servers. So I can have a cluster of 2 or more Proxmox servers, allowing me to run and manage a large number of virtual machines. This is what you would do in a commercial environment, and Proxmox is available as a free open source system that you can use for home use or even at work. But it does offer you, at work, it offers you enterprise support, which you can then buy. So it gives you the best of both. Another unique feature of Proxmox is that it's got a built-in container support apart from the VM support, which all the others offer. So you can run Docker containers inside Proxmox, and you don't need to run Docker on the server. Proxmox provides very good monitoring and reporting, and there's also support and community support as well as the enterprise support for it. And lastly, I'd already mentioned Proxmox is open source. Now, these are the advantages of Proxmox over VirtualBox. You will get better performance. I mentioned the management support and the enterprise features. Security is one of the advantages that Proxmox gives you over VirtualBox, because in Proxmox it's a complete Linux server, so it comes with good security and isolation. There is no direct support or direct access to your VMs from the operating system. You have a management console and you do everything through the management console. I'm going to look at some of the commercial options out there as well. There are advantages of Proxmox over the VMware vSphere server. First of all, cost. To use vSphere, you need to buy a license, and the cost of running it is going to be very expensive. The learning curve for VMware is very steep. Now let's compare this with Microsoft Hyper-V. Please note that the Hyper-V is also a Type 2 hypervisor. There are licensing costs and there's a limited host operating system support. So let's say you don't have a PC with 32 gig RAM, but you've got 2 or 3 PCs with 16 gig RAM. That will give you a very nice Proxmox cluster across which you can then be able to run a Kubernetes cluster. The other virtual server that you can use instead of Proxmox is the XenServer. However, it has certain disadvantages to Proxmox, and these are the disadvantages. Firstly, the complexity of setup and configuration of Xen makes this a no easy feat for a person to start a Homelab. It has limited community support, and it has licensing and costs. From a performance, Xen is a Type 2 hypervisor. I've now covered what I would call the major competitors. I'm excluding Red Hat. The last thing I want to mention is what machines I recommend you use. If you have old laptops or old PCs with 16 or 32 gig of RAM, those are ideal. If you have an old PC computer with 16, 24 or 32 gig RAM, I recommend that. If you have an old server, either in a tower case or rack mounted, you can use old servers. However, they can be noisy. Their cooling systems are quite loud. You can use them in a garage because you only need to access them across the network. I have recommendations for CPU. You need to use machines with i7, Intel i7, or the AMD equivalent of that, or better. My personal preference, I like the Dell Mini Tower with the i7 CPU, and I have 2 of these Mini Towers, which I will be demonstrating to you. Allow me to give you a demonstration. Let's start first with VirtualBox. As you can see here, I am running no machine. It's just another way to get a remote desktop. And the machine that I am running, if I change the desktop, it's a Linux machine. I'm running Mint Linux on this machine. But you could run whatever you like, and then you can install VirtualBox on there. There's VirtualBox. Let's go back here. The scope of this video is not to teach you how to use VirtualBox, but merely to show you what can be achieved. So you can create a VM by clicking on the button. You choose the name, you give it a name, let's say Ubuntu, and then you choose which operating system you want, and you follow this dialog. You allocated enough gig of RAM. As I said, you need to give it 4 gig of RAM, 4096 megabytes. Never create VMs with less than 4 gig of RAM. That is the reason why if you are using small machines with 16 gig RAM, you need to have more than one machine to be able to run enough virtual machines. But if you are just wanting to experiment with one or two or one at a time, this will work nicely. And you follow this dialog. I'm not going to complete it. And it creates you a virtual machine. As you can see, I've got a Rocky machine. I've got an Ubuntu server. I've got a CentOS server. And I've got a Kali Linux machine. And then all you do is click on one of these and you click on Start. It's as easy as that using VirtualBox. It's nice, but it does have its limitations. I just want to point out something. If you do want to use VirtualBox, go to the settings, go to networking, and you'll see I always use a bridge adapter. The reason you want to do that is because you will create a VM on your machine which you won't be able to access from your PC on which you are running VirtualBox. However, if you use Proxmox, that is not a problem because by default Proxmox uses bridge. But most people, when they install it, they like to install it with NAT, which is a disadvantage. I don't recommend NAT if you're going to work with VirtualBox. Enough said about that. Now let us go and look at Proxmox. Proxmox you open from the browser. Here's my server. And if I open here, you can see I've got tons of virtual machines on here. I've got a router. I've got a HA proxy. I've got a machine for running Ansible. I've got Jenkins. So my whole DevOps inventory is all sitting as separate virtual machines in my Proxmox server. And then here I've actually got running 4 machines that are making up a Kubernetes cluster. So if I want to create a machine with Proxmox, first you click on the actual Proxmox machine, then you say create VM. We give it a name. Let's say this is Ubuntu server. We have ISO files stored on this machine. You see, this is also an advantage over VirtualBox, that my ISO files are stored on my Proxmox server. In VirtualBox, you have to go and find them, and they will be sitting on the host PC. So over here somewhere, I've got Ubuntu. There it is. I'm going to allocate 32 gig for disk is fine. Number of cores, I can give this thing 2 cores. Leave it at 1. And here, as I mentioned, you always give this 4 gigs, so it's 4096. And you do that here as well, 4096. That's fine, I don't change the bridge. You see, as I mentioned earlier, this by default comes with bridge networking. Now I'm not going to hit the finish button because it will now create a virtual machine. There is another way for me to create a virtual machine because I've already created a template. You can take any machine and you can convert it to a template by clicking that. I'm not going to do that, but having done that, I now have an Ubuntu server template. All I need to do is click on the template and say clone. This is the latest version of Proxmox. So it knows when you clone, it's going to make a new clone. And let's just give this thing a name, Ubuntu. But I'm now not going to hit the clone button because I don't want to create a machine. In fact, I have just created one. You can see it's running two. I've just created two. But that's all you need to do for a machine. What I like about Proxmox, if I take one of my VMs, I can go into the console, which connects me directly to that VM, and I can log in. And now I'm going to tell it to shut down. Now I've typed the password and you see the machine will shut down. So I can click here to start it, but what I like, if I have a VM that's not running, there's a little box with a green arrow that tells me this thing is running. What's also nice is to use the console to start it, because if I click on the Start Now button on the console, it will bring the server up. Nice thing about this is I can close the console, open it again, and it brings me back there. I haven't lost anything. So this is a nice way to start a machine. However, if I want to shut it down, I can click that button there, and it'll force the operating system to shut down. I would not do that for my Kubernetes cluster, these machines here, because I want the machine to be told shut down so that it gracefully shuts the Kubernetes cluster down. What happens is the master node will deregister itself from the cluster and shut down. And the worker nodes will do the same. They will deregister themselves from the cluster and then shut down. And I do that for all the machines, and the last machine to shut is the primary master node. So you see, it gives you the benefit to be able to work with a full Kubernetes cluster. It gives you the benefit to be able to do Ansible and Terraform and all these, even Semaphore. You now have a machine at home that you can learn and practice to acquire DevOps skills. And I am told that if you have Proxmox as a skill, by working at home over a period of time, you can acquire quite good DevOps skills, like with the selection of VMs that I have here. If you create these, I've got HA proxy, that's my proxy server. I've got two Ansible servers. There's one. There's another one. I've got a Jenkins server for creating pipelines. I've got a Terraform server now. Terraform is also nice. It allows you to be able to have what they call infrastructure as code. So you define what you want. All you say Kubernetes cluster is available, and it will go ahead and set up the cluster if it's not there, or if I don't say available, it will take it down. You can use these to get the type of skills that are very much in demand in the industry, and that is DevOps skills. In the last 2 years, I've been working as a DevOps, and it has helped me a lot to have my own Proxmox server. I do have a video where I show you how to set up your own Proxmox server. If you found this interesting, I'll put a link below to the Proxmox installation video that I have created, where I go through this. in a simple manner so that you can have a Proxmox server running on your side. So go now, get yourself an old PC or two, or an old laptop or two, and then go and have a look at that video. Anyway, with that, I hope that this video was useful to help you decide what you want to use for a home lab. And with that, I hand you back to Josh. Take it, Josh.
We thank you for watching this video, delving into the transformative potential of Proxmox Homelab, and extending our appreciation to Nico for his insightful demonstration of installing and utilizing this remarkable tool. Today's journey wasn't just about what Homelab to select to use, but we opened the doors for you to acquire the most demanded industry skills as a DevOps. We now recommend you look at the video linked below to help you get started. Your journey to Proxmox excellence. Your commitment to exploring Proxmox's capabilities has been invaluable. Stay tuned for more insights, more automation, and more empowerment through the incredible tool that is Proxmox. For those eager to deepen their knowledge, we invite you to become a Patreon supporter. This exclusive opportunity grants access to upcoming training courses, enriching your expertise while supporting the channel. Patreon supporters will receive exclusive access to our training courses, helping you stay at the forefront of technological advances. We genuinely appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more enriching content with you. Stay curious, keep exploring, and continue harnessing the remarkable potential that Proxmox offers in your home lab and DevOps automation journey. Thank you for being a part of our community.